conversion lab for selling of a high ticket, or not high ticket, more like how do you sell done for you services at scale, of which you could have high ticket as an option. So we covered this in the first week, where you want to make sure you're working with the right people, making sure you have the right skill set, and then you have your track record, knowing your sweet spot, and selling the. And then last week we covered the low value funnels. How would you do them? So from phase 0 through to phase 3, which was, I covered things like if you don't know anything, what to do. So I'm suspecting there, because of the number of people that I run into who want to do this but don't quite have the capability. So I give them a bit of a pathway of how to get there. While this is not exhaustive, it's a good enough indication of the track you should take. So today we are here, which is transitioning to high value, or what some people like to call high ticket. It's a relative term because if you're doing M&A services, then you could easily charge in excess of a couple $100,000, if not a few millions of dollars, depending on the size of the deal. So don't wanna. I'm gonna keep it in the marketing context, where generally speaking, anywhere from 5K plus is probably considered high ticket. However, there is no standard definition, so we'll kind of go with that. But if for you high ticket is 50,000, then that's your number. All right. So let's not get bogged down on numbers here. So transition to high value. This is where the risk level starts increasing, i.e. the risk of, if I'm going to spend this money, am I going to get something in return? So if someone has said to me, hey, buy a $7 ebook, as most people who have bought $7 ebooks or $10 ebooks or sub $50 stuff, most of the time people don't even open it. So there's no harm as such. Obviously, you want to make sure people consume your product, but obviously you can't force people to consume that. But they won't necessarily care if they've put $7 or $10 or $20 or whatever into some sort of a low value product, and maybe they'll consume at some later point. And so there's no really much risk there. But however, when you start charging large numbers or larger numbers, you obviously start, you present a risk to the buyer. So they need assurance that you can deliver the outcome. And in essence, they're buying some level of certainty about it. So this is a warning for the newbies, who oftentimes you'll see them in the Facebook group. They may run into a post by someone who said like, hey, they've got a $20,000 high ticket offer, or they got some big dollar value, and it's quite seductive, where you're like, hey, if he can sell it, he writes copy and he sells it for $20,000, then therefore I'm writing copy too, and therefore I should be able to sell it for the same price. Unfortunately, that is not how it works, because someone who talks about selling, 50, 20K, 30K plus stuff, if you look at the background, the track record, they have got a lot of, to use a cricket analogy, a lot of runs on the board. And so they're piggybacking off that, right? And so there are only two kind of pathways where you can go straight to high value services, if you want to call it high ticket. And the first one is obviously, the universal one is that you've got a track record. You've got some sort of a proof that allows you to rely upon to sell you, essentially. And the first one aspect of that is the track record. You demonstrate, you prove that you've done it. And the wordsmithery part, i.e., my sales letter, my VSL, my whatever, it might get you the lead, but you really have a plan to deliver, right? And so, I've run into this group every so often. They run into some course which gives them a strategy on how to sort of acquire customers, and they'll sort of hack their way or lie their way or BS their way to get a sale of some sort. And then now comes the part where they have to deliver and they can't, and they get stuck, right? So if you can't, then get someone who can, and that's where the arbitrage part comes in. And I've run into those people where they'll be great at reaching out and getting customers or potential customers or leads on a phone, and they'll say, hey, listen, do you want to buy my leads, or some sort of media buying package or whatever the heck it is. And now they need to go and fulfill on the order, and they'll work with someone who actually do the lead generation part. The important part here is that you get that lead generation partner, or whoever's going to do it, done first before you go out there and start selling it, because that part is not that easy to find at scale, especially if you're going to go into a large market. So for example, let's say if I've got and sold someone, 100 solar leads, well, it's one of the more competitive markets that's out there, if not, at least within the top 5 or 10. So it's not going to be that easy to find someone who can actually at scale do that. That is somehow going to partner with you, because if anybody's doing it at scale, then they've already got established distribution partners and or direct clients that they're working with. So they're not just going to add you to their distribution channel, or if they do, it'll be the leads that they can't sell to their preferred client base. So you want to make sure that you get this done first, even if you are great at selling and you want to, you have all intention of selling high ticket type stuff. Just making sure that you can fulfill on it is important. As you can see here, there's a recurring theme over the last 2-3 weeks. I've been going on about making sure you can fulfill, because it gives industry a bad name. And it gets everybody's skepticism high and higher and higher, and therefore it gets harder and harder and harder to reach that threshold where they feel comfortable to buy from the next person, right? If you keep burning everybody, then at some point, they'll end up, they're jaded, right? There's a whole segment of them out there. So, and you may also have to bring your partner or that external team or whoever you're going to work with, if it's not you, into the sales process, because obviously the person will want to check you out, right? No one's going to write a check for 20-50 grand without knowing who the hell's behind this. It certainly does not happen quite that easily. I'll cover the funnels that you can use for this thing. The second one is the brand. Right? So in Australia, we've got this agency called King Kong. They run lots of ads. Whether they're any good or not, I'll leave it to somebody else to comment on that. But they're well known, and at least within some segments, they're perceived to be high growth and really good agency and whatever. Right. Having said that, I've worked with some people who've come from there, and they don't have too nice things to say. But once again, I don't want to take their word at face value, because as we saw over the last week or two, that auditing clients is an important part of the process, and perhaps the client didn't do their bit is why it didn't work out, right? So nothing against and then you've got brands like Neil Patel in the SEO type space. You've got Price Waterhouse for accounting type services, Allens, which is a top tier law firm here. If you're going to talk to them, then you're bound to start at 5-10 grand. It's not going to be anything less than that. They're premiumly priced, but they're extremely well known for what they've done in the past, and therefore they can rely upon that. So they still have a proof of a track record, except the track record in this case is implied because they have a really large brand that's been around for years. So therefore they must have done the thing. So as you can see here, in order to be able to sell high value type stuff, you need to have the track record part kind of sorted, which is why last week I offered a way for you to get to this stage if you want to get to this stage, right? So also the touch points, it's all often going to be bespoke and personalized, and obviously there's going to be multiple touch points. So it's not quite like someone's just going to buy off a webinar. Though I am going to share one funnel or a B2C funnel where you can do that, right? So I'm going to So once again, none of this is fully exhaustive. So like this is the only way to do it, but kind of giving you the 80-90% version of the whole thing. Of course, there's exceptions everywhere. I'm sure there's someone out there who's gone out with no track record and sold someone on a 50K thing and delivered it. You know what? That doesn't mean that everybody can do it. So I'm leaving the extremes and the your sort of your edge cases out of this. I'm talking about the typical person out there. It's going to be really hard for someone to give you these large dollar values without having some proof of or track record of being able to do it. So the offer is after the demonstration of the proof, and I'll cover that shortly, which is on the next one. I have a question right here. I haven't worked with them personally, man, so I can't talk crap about people I haven't worked with personally. I can't take one person's view. But point taken. If I work with them personally, then I won't hold back. But since I haven't worked with them personally, I can't say much about much more than that. All right. All right. Keeping me honest, man. Keeping me honest. All right. Okay. So selling done for you services. See, so the universal formula for any offer, right? And this is kind of like my framework of how I think about offers, which is, can you create enough perceived value that is multiple times perceived cost? So the higher the multiple here. So if you can think about it, if you create a perceived value of, let's say, $10,000 and you're charging 9,000, then the perceived value is obviously not that high. But if you say, hey, listen, my perceived value, the perceived value that I'm creating is let's say 300,000, and you're only charging $200 for it, then the perceived value is obviously super high. So that's essentially what the offer is all about. And oftentimes people make it a little bit too complicated. They try and I'm not sure. People just throw the word around, like, focus on the offer, and it's like, what the hell do you mean? And so we're going to break that down here, because I figured it's no point telling you how to sell services without telling you how to construct the offer to do it. All right, so the standardized offer, which is where you have a templated approach. You come to me, I'm going to give you these 25 things, or these 5 things, that's 4 things is the desired outcome. And internally, I've got a process, a recipe to deliver that. So a good friend of mine, Troy Dean, he has a whole thing on selling agencies on how to do packaged services. So where it's something that you've done bespoke many times over, and they essentially template it out, and they try not to take clients that deviate off that. So for example, you'll come to me and I'll do you a logo, a website, the branding thing, and all that sort of stuff, and it's one complete package. And so because I've done it 500 times over, I've got a internal process that allows me to deliver that. So it's a 10K, and you'll get the full sort of enchilada, or the package, whatever's included in the package. So it's a highly standardized offer, much like a McDonald's meal deal. You get the burgers, the fries, and the Coke, and you have a version of that. Right now, there may be some little few changes here and there, but you largely are following a templated approach that can work in some markets. Right, so mainly B2C, it's going to work quite well. And also B2B, like a mastermind or a course or things of that sort, right? So but we're looking at done for you services here, so that doesn't quite cut it, because you're going to offer a standardized solution, but I thought I'd cover this anyway. So largely it's going to be the BizOp approach to this, and what you're looking at here is the delta of future state versus the current state. So I future pace you into a reality that you desire. So for example, imagine if your family didn't have to worry about holiday costs. Imagine if you only flew first class. Imagine like that sort of it doesn't have to be that sort of luxurious, but you essentially take them to a future state, and then you compare that to the current state. Now the future state will be the dollar value required to sustain that, or to do that, and the current state is where you are. So let's say if I say, hey, listen, imagine if your kids are going to private school and you go to holidays to the south of France twice a year, first class, and so on and so forth. Imagine that lifestyle. It's entirely possible using whatever, my XYZ system. What does that look like, and how much is it going to cost you? Like, oh, that's $300,000 a year, and how much are you currently making right now? And and so your current state and the future state. So you draw a delta that causes the pain or the shame or the whatever. I'll leave the ethical and ethical issues out of this. So once again, that's what we yeah, exactly, yeah, like WordPress consultants, correct, applies to that standardized offer. Right now, you want to give them the proof of certainty, and this is usually done in a large variety of proof elements. So you throw in lots of testimonials, sort of videos and stuff. If you are doing it in real time, or you're doing it in a face-to-face kind of an environment, where you're presenting this, then you could pre-select proof elements that resonates the person. So for example, if it's single mom, you'd go and pick up a single mom who became, or 25 examples of single moms who did that. If you're looking at a single dad, then you can go do that. If you're looking at someone maybe aged, you can do that. Someone who's really young, you can do that. So things of that sort. Now, in the environment of automated webinars and all this sort of stuff, then you overwhelm them with the certainty. So like, what, I've been struggling my whole life. I only had $10,000 to my name using this super duper system, yada yada yada. Now it's built this much, and looks like next year we'll be doing A, B, C, D. So that's essentially the format of the testimonial, and you want to sort of create lots of them and a large variety. The value stack is where you, this is part of the offer, which is where you talk about, you're going to get this, we're going to throw that in $10,000 value. We got this, is, $5,000. You get this, you get this, you get this. You just keep going this. They're usually pre-packaged, pre-done courses. Perhaps could be software, could be a whole bunch of stuff. Essentially, you're just giving them lots of different products which you either have sold in the past or you value it at a certain price, and you say, oh, by the way, this is $40,000 worth of value, and you construct it as a payment terms, but it's only $200 a month, or it's only $100 a month for 3 years or 2 years or whatever. That's where the payment terms comes in, right? But then you say, listen, but you get but it's going to cost you $10,000 if you pay me over 3 years. But if you pay today, it's $8,000 or it's $7,000. So you give it like a discount to be able to give a discount to get anyone who can afford it to pull the demand forward. So rather than putting it on terms, you get the cash up front by giving 20-30% off. But those who can't afford it but can afford, like, let's say $200 a month rather than the 8,000 or 10,000, whatever it is up front, they can continue to buy that offer, and they'll remain with you for 2 years or 3 years or whatever it is, right? That's normally in the B2C context. Obviously, thrown with that, you have exclusivity, where you have a presenter or an expert that is showing how it's done. Urgency, why now? Because the crypto market's about to take off, or the real estate market's about to take off, or whatever's about to take off. And scarcity, listen, we can only have X many people that we can work with at any one time. Or at least in this cohort, I'm only going to take 10 people or 20 people or 30 people or whatever. Obviously, you want to be honest about these things. If scarcity is not something that is scarce, then don't use it, because you don't want to get called by some alphabet agency. Talk about a offer here. So I've got a good friend of mine. He has a save your marriage kind of an offer. It's just pure Facebook ads. It's a $10,000 offer. And if you look at the future state, it's, you saved your marriage, you save face, you save your assets, you save your home, you save your kids, you save whatever else. And then the current will be the loss. And so when you contrast the two, which is the current state versus the future state, it actually is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, depending on how wealthy the person is who's coming into this. And as a result, when you say 10K to potentially save that, it ends up becoming an irresistible offer, because the perceived value of this is massive, right? Not including all the rest of it. So that is an example of that. Exclusivity, I'm the only one with the super duper save your marriage system. Why now? Well, if you wait any longer, she's going to file, or he's going to file for divorce, and so on and so forth. And you can give it terms as well. So a lot of times the terms are done via a credit provider, where they would, and a lot of the online systems provide this these days. So if they want to pay you, let's say 10 grand up front, then it's this. Otherwise, they go to some payment provider where they'll give you, whatever, 7 grand, 8 grand, or whatever it is right now, and then they'll wear the cost of getting paid. But then it's a real-time credit application that is approved in the shopping cart itself. There's plenty of integrations available, or at least not plenty, but integration available for that sort of a solution. So on the B2C side, obviously with the nature of the customer, B2C, you obviously will have largely standardized. So it could be jump on a weekly call, here's the course that comes with it, or here's some training material that comes with it, so on and so forth, right? So and you could have some sort of a regular call, but it's not bespoke where we jump on a call and I'm going to come up with some custom thing for you. Everybody gets largely the same thing. And the customization is where you jump on the call and you just get told, kind of like in your situation, you'll go do A, B, C, D, right? And that's on the B2C side and somewhat B2B. Now comes the more classic bespoke type thing. Once again, we're looking at marketing services, so we're not looking at building houses and things of that sort, right? So sticking to marketing here. Bespoke, which is mainly B2B. You will have to do a proposal in most cases. And the reason for that is, and yes, there are people out there who say you don't need a proposal. If it's going to be this type of a thing, you need a proposal. That type of a thing, no proposal. And the reason for that is because of the chance or the probability of it going pear-shaped. Because your client is supposed to deliver something to you to be able to give them the outcome they're looking for. So for example, if I was doing a marketing campaign for someone, Well, they know their business better than I do, and I'm relying on them to supply with me, for example, the proof elements, right? Because it may not be available on their website. So I'm like, okay, well, do you have customer surveys that you've done? Do you have video recordings have you done? Do you have testimonials that you have, right? So there's a lot of, now I may request those things, but they have to provide it. Let's say if I say I'm going to do tracking for you, well, you got to give me access to GTM and your pixels and all that other stuff. If you don't give me that, I can't deliver. So that has to be considered as part of the proposal. It doesn't have to be a big part of it, but nevertheless, it needs to be fairly upfront as to this is a shared responsibility, so that you don't end up having any issues, or you've got a solid ground to stand on should something go pear-shaped. And it sets the expectations up as well, right? So there you'll share the outcome through this new marketing system, or through this marketing automation thing that you want to buy from me with respect to your business. We're looking at the outcomes, such as you can, shave, I don't know, 25% of your accounting team and 50% of the people in the warehouse, or you'll be saving so much money because we'll get rid of another 25 of all the manual VAs you've got who are doing on a manual data entry. It'll be all automated now, so on and so forth. Like whatever the outcome that is being shared, you would actually, obviously present that. Right. And then the impact on the business, this is where you want to show ROI, i.e., you're going to give me 10 grand, but in return, we can see that immediately within the first 30 days, you're going to get X benefit. And then within the next 12 months, you're going to get the Y benefit. And over the long term, it's going to be so much, so forth. This is the, the internal rate of return, or the net present value analysis, or just pure ROI, dollar value gained over the next 12 to 18 months, minus the divided by the investment. You're looking at you'll be making 4 times as much as what you're putting in, things of that sort, right? You do want to imply the impact on the person, that, work less, go home early, look really good in front of your boss, so on and so forth, especially if you're going into the enterprise level. One of the key considerations or decision making is not just the impact on the business, but what is the chance of this going pear-shaped, and what is going to happen to my career should this not happen, right? And so the more transformational this investment is, by transformation, it doesn't have to be dollar value, but how potentially impactful on the business it's going to be. So for example, if you're selling ERP systems, it's actually a very, very hard sell, because you're going into the nervous system of the business, and you're replacing it, or you're changing a large chunk of it. So it impacts many parts of the business, and should that system not go, should go down or whatever, it immediately starts causing losses, and the person who championed the project actually has egg on his or her face. So that really has to be something you consider, depending on obviously who you're selling to. If you're selling in a committee of sorts, then you want to make sure that the person has some sort of that they're going to advance their career. They're going to advance how they are perceived in front of their bosses or their colleagues, but at the same, and while making it safe for them. So your proposal would say, listen, phase 1 is going to be an audit, phase 2 is going to be a prototype, phase 3 we're going to do lots of testing with your team, all that sort of stuff, get acceptance from everybody, get everybody on board, make sure everybody's happy, and then we're going to do a rollout here this way in this department first, and then so on and so forth. So you would want to include that. And you would say at any point in time, we want to make sure that everybody's on board, everybody's happy, so on and so forth, right? So that's the impact on the person. It has to be part of the consideration. The exclusivity, as in why only you can deliver this, because you've done 30 projects like this before. You specialize in marketing companies, whatever the heck it is, and then the delivery, who and by when it's going to be done, right? So that would be the proposal part of it. Now, because you've already done the proof part, the service, the product performance part in the touch points previous to the proposal, is usually what happens in the bespoke thing. It's not like you jump on a call and they just sign up to some $20,000 thing. It can happen. At least I'm looking at cold traffic here. Warm, much easier, obviously, because you've built a relationship with them. Maybe you've done a small project in the past. Maybe they've got some experience with you. And that's why when we covered this, let me just show this here last week, why I had said that sometimes, you can go from low to high. And the low part is generally not necessarily to make money out of it, but the low part essentially is to buy the customer and for them to experience that thing with you, whether it be the course or or some sort of training or a challenge or whatever that thing is that the low dollar value thing is to do is to essentially to sell you and to create a problem where, right, this outcome is really good because I've given you the how, but it may be in the too hard basket. So then the upsell or the high value part is, why don't I just do this for you? Because there's two paths at this point now. You can try and work it out all of yourself. Now you don't exactly know what to do, but you run into some issues. Let's say, for example, if I've done a course on tracking, an upsell of that could be, let me do the tracking for you. Because while you may understand it theoretically, you may run into some issues. And you're like, listen, I know it now, and I know this is something I don't want to do. Can you just do it for me? Right. So that usually is the low to high part. This is the high to high part when we spoke about we speak about next year, which is going straight to the high ticket funnel. And because obviously the low ticket funnel is actually a lot of effort, right? So you're gonna have to, obviously build a landing page, and because you can't have touch points at the low because the volume is so high, it's going to cost you too much to bring the human contact in there. So the human contact can only happen at the high side, not the low side. That's why the low part, the low ticket or the low dollar value usually is some sort of automated sale thing that you do. But there's a large segment of the market that is really not interested in learning about how to get it done. They just want the outcome, right? So for example, recently we're working on a Web3 project. Yeah, the person I'm working with, yeah, they're looking at a multi-million-dollar project here. He has no desire to learn how to do funnels or to do a quiz funnel. He's like, hey, Nick, can you just do it for me? That's it. There was no interim step. It's like, cool, I know you, I like you, I trust you. Can you give me this thing done? And that was this. So that's what I'm talking about, the straight to high, right? Where there's never really an interim step as such. I mean, there may be conversations about what the project is, which is the auditing part that we covered, a week before last, but you go straight to the high ticket funnel here. So it's either going to be if it's cold, then it's going to be either book a call, a live webinar, or an automated webinar. You see a lot of SaaS companies that do B2B high end B2B. They usually do a live webinar. They'll have a subject matter expert. If it's something that you can automate, then by all means automate that. A different type of funnel that I've seen recently, I'm seeing it being used more and more now, which is where they go to a quiz, and then you get a personalized pitch to book a call or webinar. And the reason for doing this is because that personalized pitch part there is actually essentially making an API call to Claude or to OpenAI or one of those things, and it changes the copy on the page to resonate with the answers that have been given, right? So it's not a very big quiz. It's only like 3 to 5 questions, enough to ensure that you're getting the right person to the webinar, because sometimes the answers to the questions are to kick the person out, as in you don't qualify for this to jump on a call. So for example, in the Web3 project I'm working on now, they are quite adamant that they don't want someone who jumps on a call who thinks that just because you are investing in a Web3 project that you're going to make 1,000,000% with no risk. If that's the type of person that's coming through the funnel, then they want to get kicked out. They don't even want them on the webinar, because that's unrealistic and there's something that they can never fulfill. So they know who they don't want is that type of a person, right? So someone who's got some real world experience around how investing works is quite happy with 15-20% per annum gains, and so they would be happy with that person. Now, of course, if you get 300-400 out of it, great, but they're not looking for someone who's coming in there expecting 300-400% and then somehow getting disappointed because it didn't match the expectation. So they want to kick them out. Once again, as you can see, it's a bit of the thing I shared in the first week, where you want to audit your client and make sure that you don't talk to the wrong person, or don't sell your service to the wrong person. Right, now the model that's working in high value B2C, I thought I'd cover that in case there's somebody here who wants to do that, which is essentially you go from ads to a quiz. That's optional. I've seen some where there is a quiz and some there's no quiz. And then you do an automated webinar of some sort with the offer, which is in the 2 to 8K range, is what I've seen. And that's not to say that you can't do anything higher. Perhaps you could. and the sales team follows up to anyone who sort of drops off, as in they jump on the webinar, but they don't buy. And the reason for doing it this way is because the sales team is only following up on any other final objections you might have, or why didn't you buy, because they are well aware that what the dollar value is and all that sort of stuff. So it makes the sales team job a lot easier. Having said that, my friend is doing the 10K offer. It's a Facebook ad to book a call, and then the sales guy basically, shares the horror story of their lives with them to get them to buy. Anyway, we won't go too much into the ethical and moral issues there, but anyway, there's a little bit of hard selling going on to get the offer sold. But that's one approach. The other one is I've seen that, but here this is entirely automated, and the sales team's only following up to those people who don't buy. Where here, all of the sale is being done with a personalized touch, which leads us to the very last sort of point, is essentially selling done for you services. What are the skills that are required? Right, depending on the model you pick, you may need more or less some of this. Number one is obviously marketing strategy. You know enough about how to construct one of these funnels, and you've got the ability to think through the issues and all that sort of stuff. The thinking part of the whole game. The offer creation. This is not that easy because if you are starting cold, then you don't have the courses to value stack with. So what are you going to do instead? Right? So maybe you can create some new PDFs. Perhaps you can use some AI to create the auxiliary things there to create the value. Otherwise, it's really hard to position that. You can't just say, hey, just buy my course $2,000. You want to have all the other bonuses and all that other stuff that happens around it to raise the value of the offer. So that's where so I'm talking about the mechanics of offer creation here, not even the positioning of it. Positioning becomes easy when you have all the bits and pieces to stack it with. And then here comes the copy. Obviously, if you're gonna do a low ticket funnel, then you're gonna have to do a fairly long sales page or a VSL or a webinar, and then you got to do your different landers, the ads, and all that sort of stuff. So it's sometimes a lot of work, and oftentimes if you are geared for this, life can sometimes be easier, actually. While the conversion rates are going to be lower, obviously, because you're selling into a higher ticket amount, just getting an ad, book a call, is not that difficult. But come landing page or quiz with a big, sales data of some sort, and then somehow they go into a funnel, and then you have automated SMSs and email messages and all that kind of stuff. So it can end up becoming overwhelming unless you have that capability. And that's why I wanted to share this, so that people aren't disillusioned just when they see, hey, do a low ticket funnel or do a high ticket funnel or do any kind of this marketing thing. It is not without its own cost that comes with it. And the cost does not necessarily mean dollar value you're going to pay for stuff, but the cost of knowing how to play that game. Because if I pick a low ticket funnel with for example a sales letter, then do you know how to write a 5,000 word sales letter or $10,000 sales 10,000 word sales letter? It's not that's not that simple. If you don't know that, then you're gonna have to hire someone, and no one's gonna write you one of those sales letters for at least less than a few $1,000s. So that's the reason why the very first thing I looked at is make sure, in the first week we look at your capability and what you can fulfill on, rather than just looking at the dollar values and then having gaps in your skill set to be able to deliver. So then comes the media buying side. Do you even know how to do media buying? If so, YouTube ads, Facebook ads, the two main ones at the moment. TikTok, yeah. Automations, connecting the various systems together. If you already build a fairly, with a low ticket funnel and a high ticket funnel, then obviously there's going to be a point where the traffic comes in. It's going to get captured in some way. You're going to present an offer, and then it's going to go to some back-end marketing sequence of some sort. So you're connecting different platforms and systems in place, plus the tracking and the analytics to analyze the numbers. And then if you're doing any phone sales, you're going to need a sales team, or a salesperson, I should say, or you're doing it yourself. And then obviously all the marketing communications, the emails and SMSs, and then finally the compliance of knowing exactly what you can say and not say, and not having an alphabet agency come after you because you sold to someone who was vulnerable, all that sort of stuff. So, for example, one of the things to be aware of, for example, in this space here, because obviously a person is desperate to save their marriage, they are considered, what's the technical word here we have in Australia? It's sorry, the word is it's essentially a word to describe that person was could have been easily manipulated because of the desperate situation. Yeah, there's a technical word to describe those people. Yeah, and so this you can get a phone call from an alphabet agency that says, sorry, you should be refunding. All right, and that's it. Vulnerable. Thank you. Thanks, Joss. Yeah, at risk. Yeah, exactly. So so you want to be careful who you're selling to as well, and the nature and the structure of the sale, because so usually what happens in a situation like this is they bought the course, and obviously there was or the program, whatever it is, but they were required to turn up and obviously make some changes, because marriages don't break up on their own. The person or the partner who wants to save obviously has has a part to play in the whole thing, either wholly or partially, and so that requires them to acknowledge that, and sometimes they don't want to. It's not my fault, and so obviously they make no changes, and therefore now the marriage is gonna not be saved, because and as a result they don't need the offer anymore because it's gone past saving, and so therefore they are in a state where they're like, yeah, listen, I want to get my money back because this didn't work. And because of the industry and the circumstance under which the product is sold, even if the person is not at even if the seller is not at fault for whatever reason, it's going to be fairly difficult to get an alphabet agency to not take the side of the person who feels that they were vulnerable when they were sold this, right? So whether right or wrong, that's just the way it is, and that forms part of compliance. If you are going to play in those markets, then you need to have awareness of this. Oh, Jay, yeah, a money back guarantee. I'm not sure on that. I don't think there's a money back guarantee. No, there isn't. Yeah. I guess if there was, then you would you would either price it much higher, or you'd to cater for those people who got refunds for because you'd have to make sure that the person fulfilled their bit. So maybe it's a conditional money back guarantee. So you show me that you showed up for counseling, and you prove to me that you keep a diary that you communicated with your partner or whatever it is in this May, and so on and so forth. So I think it's a conditional guarantee. I'll give you your money back provided you did A, B, C, D, and that's where the whole thing falls. But that doesn't. Yeah, it is a risk. Does he have a plan B product? No. So what he's doing, actually, it's a great question, because when I met up with him, he actually I think he did about $3 or $4 million last year in this particular vertical. But what he did was he realized that potentially this can become an issue going forward, because now that the alphabet agency has contacted him twice, that there's a good chance that it's going to be a recurring theme, and the alphabet agency is not going to take too kindly after contacting you maybe once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. They're not going to contact you forever on every time for a refund. They're going to at some point, put the hard squeeze on you, essentially, that i.e. you're an unconscionable, whatever trader, or you're exploiting vulnerable people, so on and so forth. And it's going to be very hard for him to then try and save himself, or try and save the business, I should say. So he's decided to sort of opt out with it, and essentially is looking at a low ticket product, and increasing the volume of people that is there. So while this one was a high ticket, or a higher dollar value, I should say, he's going to move to selling, let's say, a sub $500 product, and then only taking a very small number of people into something that's more high end like this, because he'll have a chance to evaluate who he's working with. So it's the front end is being used as a filtering mechanism. I'm just not sure whether there's a market, whether that's, yeah, like, or does a person just say, just show me how to save my marriage, I don't want to read a book. right? I don't know. Now, maybe there's a large segment that just wants to consume content because, and therefore they don't have to admit that something's wrong because they're not talking to a person. So perhaps they are two separate segments. I don't know enough about the space, but when you were talking about it, he asked me, because like, what do you think? Do you think a low ticket can work? And I said, yeah, low ticket can work, as in because there's obviously plenty of save your marriage or text your ex back and all that kind of stuff. There's plenty of sub 100, $200 dollar value products already available on the market. So that's enough evidence that that does work. Whether there's a transition to personalized coaching there, I don't know. I said you'll have to test it and see. So, but great question. Yeah, I guess don't get married is one. But in some countries, you don't have to be married to still lose your assets, right? So that's definitely possible. In fact, there's a funny video I saw the other day. I sent it to a good lawyer friend of mine. Sort of off the topic here. It was where a lady claimed de facto from the partner, but the court held that it was not a de facto relationship. And the reason for that is because the partner had said to, as in the male, had said to the female that I'd like to marry you and sort of have something more permanent. So why don't you move in with me? And she said, no, I want to stay in my own place, and I'd like to, so they were sort of together, but not fully together. But what really worked in his favor was that she was claiming that she was not in a de facto relationship for government benefits. So the government benefit in this case ended up saving the guy. Whether I don't know how much of a contribution that placed, but the fact is now she would be done for perjury, right? Because she lied. So yeah, you pick which one are you or are you not? If you are, then you gotta give then you listen. If you are in a de facto relation, then you lied on the form, and therefore be done for fraud, or at least somewhat that sort of thing. Yeah, taking government benefits that it's undeserving. So anyway, it was an interesting case. It just ran into it associated with a lawyer friend of mine. Was an interesting case that there's a grade that you have to cross over to be considered that. But anyway, yeah, leaving that aside, that kind of like ends this. I don't know if there's any questions about this or if there's any extra questions. I'm not sure what else to share here. Maybe I can share a template of a proposal or something next week if there's interest in that. But
yeah,
otherwise,
Nick, I was going to ask Nick if just going on to the Web3 project, what level of sophistication are they using in their filtering to exclude people? You get different some of the low sophistication ones are, have you ever bought stock on the stock market? Yes, no, okay, you're in. And then there's other stuff, how direct are they being? I was just curious because you did show quite a bit of that.
So the two questions that I've added in to kick people out. Number one is sort of investment returns. You expect investment returns to be risk-free? Yes or no? And what sort of percentage returns are you expecting from? Do you expect from investments? So like less than 10 to 20, 30 plus or 40 plus, and then kind of like in the hundreds. So they're the only two I'm starting with at this stage. And the reason for that is because this has never been done. This funnel has never been done. As in, they've never done any of this sort of stuff before. I told them, I said, why don't we bring everybody in, and then you can tell me from the attendees who show up on the webinar. So we'll get the answers, but not kick them out. And then you can tell me if the not so idle fit is turning up on the webinar. Then we can go back and say, cool. Oh yeah, that 3 people you identified who were not a good fit, or the 25 people you identified who were not good fit. Yeah, they did answer the question in a particular way. They did say investments, they want 400% return. And they also said that investments should be risk-free. So I'm looking for some connection with the person who turns up in the webinar and the expectation and the answers, rather than a priori decide that just because someone selects these things, it's indicative of a bad lead. or a
But you
bad
wouldn't know
sale.
if you rejected
Because
them,
yeah,
right?
because I might, but like, you know what? Yeah, of course I want 500% return, but I'm actually, in reality, I know that I don't want that. Or it didn't. It's not possible to do that. So
Yeah.
so the answers given don't correlate with the actual lead quality, and so
Mm,
it's a misinformed signal, and so we don't
mm,
want to take that at face value. And that's one thing I told him. I said, listen, we'll start out by not kicking out anybody, and then let's see who shows up on your calls, and then what does the salesperson say, and then because we've obviously got the person's record or what answers they gave, then we're going to go back and see if the questions we've got that we think is going to identify those people we can kick out, is it really predictive, or is the person who turned out to be a bad lead or whatever actually gave more realistic answers, and so then therefore we can
mm.
throw these two questions out and try something else.
When you're strategizing for something like that, do you have a target attendee number for the webinar?
Yeah, no, I actually no, because the I guess the attendee number is just, let's just open it up. Let's see, because they've never done it before. They've got no numbers traditionally. Having said that, I would like to see a sign up rate, which is kind of more industry norm style thing, of around about anywhere from 25 to 35% to sign up. I've seen up to 60%, but we'd be happy with 25 to 35% to sign up, and then about 10 to 15% at least showing up on the live webinar itself. And so there would be the two benchmarks that I'd be starting with, and then you adjust based on what it is. So, well, one of the things I told them, I said it's really important not to get too hung up on either one of those numbers. Let's just get the damn thing started. Buy 500 clicks or a couple hundred clicks, and let's see what the performance is. And then because we've got the tracking in place and so on and so forth, we'll be able to see where people are dropping off, what type of, and then all the way to validating if the person is going to be good for their product. And if that's the case, then we've hit the right mark, because maybe it means changing the communication of the whole lander as well, so on and so forth. So there's a bit of back and forth coming, because the other thing that happens sometimes is that you get a little bit arrogant, like, oh, I know exactly how this is going to work, and you come up with an idea, and it actually doesn't work. So I've actually created 3 different funnels for them, and we're going to split test all 3. They all have slightly different messaging, and they also have slightly different lengths. So one is a full 10 question quiz. The other one is a 3-question quiz, and the other one is no quiz. And we want to track all of those people to a lead quality, and then onto a sale, and then work back and say, did the quiz drop conversions? And if it did materially, then did it result in a high quality person that came through? So the quiz eliminated 25% of the leads, for example, but the person who came through were really good. So what you are losing on the lead side, you're gaining with much higher efficacy for the sales team. So the sales team gets a 95% contact rate, because you got rid of the people who are not a good fit, versus no qualifying at all, i.e. there's no multi-step quiz sitting there, and you just go, yep, I like it, book a call. And they jump on the call, and they happen to be not a very good fit, or it's bringing through a few too many people that are unqualified. And if that's the case, then the quiz, it's doing its job of giving you informed choices. So the quiz has been added for 2 reasons. Number one is essentially to profile, so we can understand who these people are and what they're after. Secondly, it's giving the sales team the data of how to sell when they jump on the call. And thirdly, it's to see whether it's actually a valid tool for qualification, as in, can it eliminate people who are not a good fit? And that essentially is the 3 main reasons why you do add quizzes in any funnel, is for one of those 3 purposes.
Very interesting. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Yeah, so I guess the most important part of all of this is to get the funnel live, and then adjust, rather than try and sit in a lab somewhere, or in your office or wherever, and keep going on. Did I get it right? You'll never know until you go live. So I'd rather. So generally, that's my approach of anybody that I know that's ever scaled to millions of dollars. That's usually the framework they follow. They quite detached and have no value judgment on the outcome of a particular campaign, and they just go, just yeah, good enough. Let's go live. Let's buy 100 clicks and see what happens. Now, of course, that should not be used as a blanket rule. It really depends on what brand you're working with or working for. So, for example, oftentimes I've worked with people who are trying to scale, for example, solo or debt or whatever, and they get a little bit hung up on how the brand looks, and I'm like, but you don't have a brand, man. Like, Coke is a brand, you don't. So don't worry about it. If 3 people don't like you, those 3 people, you're probably never going to run into them. It's not like they're going to start posting about you online just because your spelling is wrong or the color is wrong or something. Just get the damn thing live. Right now, of course, once you've been in the market for 5 years and you have a very well established following and a name to worry about, then you can worry about these considerations. But by that time, you actually know what works. So you're not taking those big risks anyway. And so as you can see here, the risk level you want to tolerate or take is a result of the outcome you're getting. If your business is at 0 right now, then what do you care? Just get the damn thing live, man, and worry about any other non-issues later. Of course, if you're Coke or someone well established, then yeah, you would have guidelines. You'd have a brand guide, you have a language guide, you have all kinds of rules and regulations to play with. These guys are reasonably well known, and they've got some very high level VCs that have invested into them. So for that reason, I've run everything past them, saying, listen, are you comfortable with the languaging being used here? Are you comfortable with the thing? I've stayed on point on brand as much as possible. But having said that, everything is being run by their legal department. Everything is being run from their marketing person, and so on and so forth. So there's quite a few eyes on the other side who are looking into this as a way to make sure that everything is kind of ticks all the boxes. So and that's to be expected. And I've told them 100% up front. I said, listen, we're dealing with in an area of the world or industry that has somewhat of a dodgy reputation, and so I rely on you to do the compliance here, and don't rely on me. I'm the marketing the relationship here, not the legal person. So you need to run this past anybody else that you have to. So that's the first thing. But also they can buy traffic in certain markets only. So they're like, hey, listen, we're not going to run this in the US now. We're going to run this in the Middle East, or we're going to run this, South America or wherever. And in those markets, usually the compliance is not a big concern. So we're like, listen, can we just run the damn thing and see what happens? And then let's fix up the nuances of the funnel. And then we can get hyper compliant when we get into the US or the UK or whatever.
Very interesting.
Yeah. I think the number one skill that I've seen of guys who really scale to big numbers is let's just get the damn thing out there. In fact, this guy, so the person, he's their marketing director. The person, he's actually been in the game a while. He's like this old geezer who's done lots of direct response in his whole life. So it's kind of nice to work with someone who actually knows their stuff. And he said something very interesting to me. He said, Nick, you know what my secret to all this marketing stuff is? I said, what? He goes, I'll run the same page to 15 different traffic sources and see where it works. And I thought that was a very, very interesting comment. He said, just because it doesn't work on Google Ads doesn't mean it's not going to work on Facebook. So he goes, I'll just go and test on about 10 or 15 different traffic sources. And therefore, I'm going to exhaust that marketing messages, that marketing message across different traffic sources rather than just rather than just judge the message on its own. So which was an interesting comment, because it's far easier to run your funnel in a new traffic source than it is to make a new funnel, or to start making adjustments to it. So I said, okay, great. Let's see how this runs across the different traffic sources they're going to run it against, and see what happens.
Yeah, you'd be crazy not to, really, if you put that amount of effort into it, and the guy who
Correct.
knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Right. Any other questions? Okay, let's move on to got not really nothing to show in terms of feature. Just a quick update, our landing page builder stuff is coming out very soon. We've got about, I don't know, 15, 20 agents that are working behind the scenes at this point to do all this stuff.